Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her coffee growing cold as the implications of what she was seeing sank in. The encrypted data package had arrived through channels so secure that only 3 people in the entire Solar Defense Force had clearance to access it. Now she understood why. The transmission originated from deep space, beyond the Helix Nebula, carried by a damaged alien vessel that had barely made it to the outer rim of human-controlled territory. The ship itself was a marvel of biotechnology, grown rather than built, its hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of a civilization far advanced from anything humanity had encountered. But it wasn't the ship that made her hands tremble as she reached for her secure communicator. It was the message. The being on the recording was unlike anything in the Galactic Council's extensive database of member species. Its form shifted between crystalline and liquid states, rainbow light refracting through its translucent body as it spoke in perfectly clear English. That alone should have been impossible. No species outside the Council had ever learned human languages, or so they claimed. "My name is Zethai of the Luminari Collective," the being had said, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in multiple dimensions. "We have watched from the void as the Galactic Council has deceived your kind for 47 of your years. The time has come for truth." 47 years. That was exactly how long humanity had been in contact with the Galactic Council, ever since the day their massive crystalline ships appeared in Earth's skies, offering friendship, trade, and a place among the stars. It had been presented as humanity's greatest achievement, the moment they joined a vast galactic community of peaceful species working together for mutual prosperity. Admiral Chen had been a young cadet then, watching in wonder as the first human delegates stepped aboard Council vessels. She had devoted her entire career to strengthening those bonds, believing she was helping to secure humanity's future among the stars. Now, as she watched the Luminari's recorded testimony, she felt that future crumbling around her. "Your species was never meant to be members," Zethai continued, its form shifting from blue to deep purple as emotion colored its words. "The Council designates only 3 classifications for newly discovered civilizations: members for species that meet their strict biological and technological criteria, subjects for species that can be useful but must remain controlled, and threats for species that must be contained or eliminated." The Admiral's blood ran cold. She had never heard of any classification system, despite sitting on the Human Council Liaison Committee for the past 15 years. Every briefing, every cultural exchange, every technological sharing agreement had painted a picture of equality and mutual respect among Council species. "Humanity," the Luminari being said, its voice carrying what sounded almost like sympathy, "was classified as a threat from your first contact. Every gift they have given you contains hidden restrictions. Every piece of technology they share is deliberately obsolete. Every treaty you have signed gives them greater control over your expansion into the galaxy." Admiral Chen paused the recording and activated her secure terminal. Her clearance granted her access to classified databases that even most government leaders couldn't see. She pulled up the technical specifications for every piece of Council technology humanity had received over the decades. Faster-than-light communication arrays, advanced medical scanners, atmospheric processors for terraforming, fusion reactor improvements, and dozens of other innovations that had revolutionized human civilization. Each file contained detailed engineering breakdowns, performance metrics, and implementation protocols. But as she cross-referenced the data with standard technological progression models, patterns began to emerge that made her stomach twist with anger. The FTL communication system, which had allowed humanity to coordinate across multiple star systems, had a maximum range that exactly matched the boundaries of human-controlled space. Not a single light-year beyond. The medical scanners, while revolutionary by human standards, were noted in Council databases as Generation 3 diagnostic tools with clear references to Generations 4 through 9. The atmospheric processors could only operate on worlds with specific mineral compositions, and somehow, every world humanity had been randomly assigned, for colonization lacked those minerals. She pulled up the galactic map that had been provided by the Council, showing human colonies spread across 17 systems in what they had been told was prime real estate in the galaxy. But when she overlaid the astronomical data her own scientists had gathered independently, the picture changed dramatically. Every single human colony was located in what amounted to a cosmic dead end, a region of space surrounded by areas of intense radiation, gravitational anomalies, and what the Council had termed navigational hazards. Humanity hadn't been given a place among the stars. They had been herded into a cage. Admiral Chen restarted the recording, her jaw clenched with growing rage. "The Council fears your species," Zethai explained, its form now a deep red that pulsed with urgency. "Not for your current capabilities, but for your potential. Their xenobiologists have studied your genetic patterns, your cultural adaptability, your problem-solving methodologies. According to their projections, humanity will surpass Council technology within 200 of your years, assuming natural development. With unrestricted access to galactic knowledge and resources, that timeline becomes 30 years. 30 years. Admiral Chen thought about the careful way Council representatives had always deflected human requests for certain technologies. How they had explained that anti-gravity systems were too dangerous for developing species, and that advanced AI research was culturally inappropriate for human psychology. She had accepted those explanations, trusted in their greater experience and wisdom. "More troubling to them," the luminary continued, "is your species' psychological profile. Council species accept hierarchy, follow established social orders, respect boundaries imposed by superior civilizations. Humanity does not. Your history is filled with individuals and groups who challenged overwhelming odds, who refused to accept limitations others tried to impose upon them. The Council has classified this as a fundamental threat to galactic stability." The recording shifted to show star charts and tactical analyses that made Admiral Chen's blood freeze. The Council maintained a fleet of 12,000 warships in the galaxy, each one capable of sterilizing a planet's surface within hours. But concentrated around human space, hidden behind cloaking fields, and stationed at what humans had been told were research outposts, were over 3,000 of those ships. "They call it the Containment Fleet," Zethai said. "Its purpose is to ensure that if humanity ever discovers the truth about their situation, or if human technology progresses faster than projected, they can implement what they term a biological reset of your species. Complete extermination, followed by the repopulation of your worlds with more compliant species." Admiral Chen's hands were shaking now as she reached for her emergency communicator, but the recording wasn't finished. "The Council made one crucial error in their assessment of humanity," the luminary said, its form brightening to a brilliant white. "They assumed that a species contained within a small region of space could not develop technology beyond their imposed limitations. They did not account for human ingenuity, for your ability to innovate within constraints." The display changed to show technical schematics that made Admiral Chen's eyes widen. Weapon designs unlike anything in human or Council databases. Propulsion systems that bent space-time in ways that seemed to violate known physics. Energy sources that tapped into quantum fluctuations at the subatomic level. "These are the technologies your species developed in secret," Zethai explained. "Hidden research stations, camouflaged as mining operations or scientific outposts. Your military leaders suspected Council surveillance and took precautions the Council never imagined. What they believe to be your complete technological inventory represents perhaps 30% of your actual capabilities." Admiral Chen's mind raced as she began to understand. The black-budget projects, the classified research stations that even she barely knew about, the mysterious deep space exploration missions that never seemed to discover anything worth reporting. It hadn't been paranoia or waste. It had been preparation. "The Luminari Collective has remained hidden from the Council for over a millennium," Zethai said. "We have watched them destroy 17 species that posed potential challenges to their dominance. We choose to break our silence now because we believe humanity represents the first real hope for galactic freedom in recorded history." The being's form shifted to show a massive space station hidden within the gas clouds of an unnamed nebula. Its design incorporated technologies that seemed beyond even Council capabilities, structures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "We offer alliance, Admiral Chen, not out of altruism, but because your species' survival serves our interests as well. The Council has grown complacent, believing themselves invulnerable. They have made their surveillance patterns predictable, their containment strategy obvious to those who know what to look for. If humanity strikes first, strikes precisely, and strikes with technologies they do not know you possess, the galaxy can be freed." Admiral Chen stood up, her coffee forgotten, and walked to the massive windows that looked out over Earth's primary space dock. Hundreds of ships moved in carefully orchestrated patterns, from massive cargo haulers bringing resources from the asteroid belt to sleek diplomatic vessels that maintained humanity's facade of grateful cooperation with the Council. But beyond the visible fleet, she knew, hidden in the spaces between spaces, were ships built with technologies the Council had never seen. Vessels that could move without leaving warp signatures, weapons that could strike from dimensions the Council couldn't monitor, and most importantly, humans who had never stopped pushing against the boundaries others tried to impose upon them. The recording ended with coordinates for a meeting point in neutral space, and a timeline that made her pulse quicken. The Council's annual assessment of human technological progress was scheduled to begin in 6 months. If their evaluations detected any significant advancement beyond projected parameters, the containment fleet would receive authorization to begin the biological reset protocol. Admiral Chen activated her secure communicator and began entering codes that would summon the most classified council in human history. The time for pretending to be grateful subjects had ended. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to cage the human spirit. Outside her window, a shooting star blazed across Earth's atmosphere, and she chose to take it as an omen. The stars belonged to those brave enough to claim them, not to those who tried to parcel them out like prison cells. The real war for humanity's future was about to begin. The emergency session convened in a facility that officially didn't exist. 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado Rockies, behind blast doors rated to withstand direct nuclear strikes, 12 of humanity's most powerful leaders gathered around a table that had never appeared on any architectural plan. The room's existence was known to fewer than 50 people in the entire Solar Defense Force, and its true purpose to fewer still. General Marcus Wright, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, looked around the table at faces he had worked with for decades, wondering how many of them had suspected the truth they were about to hear. Admiral Chen sat at the head of the table, the Luminari data package secured in a quantum-encrypted storage device beside her. To her left, Director Helena Vasquez of Human Intelligence Operations maintained the careful neutrality that had made her one of the most effective spymasters in human history. To her right, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the Theoretical Physics Consortium, looked like a woman who had been waiting her entire career for this moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of 47 years of deception. "Everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the galaxy has been a carefully constructed lie." The next 4 hours changed everything. As the Luminari testimony played, Chen watched expressions shift from skepticism to horror to cold, calculated rage. When Dr. Tanaka began cross-referencing the alien data with classified human research projects, the room's atmosphere became electric with possibility and fury. "The quantum resonance patterns match our projections perfectly," Dr. Tanaka said, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface that materialized data in 3 dimensions. "Project Looking Glass has been tracking anomalous energy signatures in Council technology for the past 15 years. Every piece of equipment they've given us contains what we termed efficiency limiters, but we couldn't understand their purpose." General Wright leaned forward. "Explain it in simple terms, Doctor." "Imagine giving someone a race car, but secretly installing a governor that prevents it from going faster than 30 miles per hour, Tanaka replied. "The technology is capable of far more than they've allowed us to access. The FTL communicators could reach halfway across the galaxy instead of just to our colony boundaries. The medical scanners could detect quantum-level cellular damage that would revolutionize our understanding of aging and disease. The atmospheric processors could terraform dead worlds in months instead of decades." Director Vasquez activated her own display, showing surveillance data that made several council members curse under their breath. "Our deep cover operatives have been tracking council activities in neutral space for the past 20 years. What we thought were random patrol patterns are actually systematic observation grids. They have sensor networks monitoring every approach route to human space, and their research stations are positioned to intercept any human vessel that tries to leave our assigned territory." The implications hit the room like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just been contained. They had been actively monitored, their every expansion carefully managed and controlled. Admiral Chen activated another display, this one showing technological schematics that made even the most experienced military leaders stare in amazement. Project Prometheus has been developing these systems in complete isolation for the past 30 years. No council oversight, no shared research, no external input of any kind. The weapons shown on screen defied conventional understanding of physics. Plasma cannons that could fire coherent energy across interstellar distances. Gravitational manipulators that could create artificial black holes. Ships that existed partially outside normal spacetime, making them effectively invisible to conventional sensors. "How is this possible?" asked General Harrison, commander of the Mars Defense Grid. "The energy requirements alone should be beyond our current capabilities." Dr. Tanaka's smile was predatory. The Council made a fundamental error in their assessment of human innovation. They assumed we would follow their technological development path, building incrementally on the foundation they provided. Instead, we developed parallel research tracks, pursuing theories and approaches they consider impossible or impractical. She brought up a new display showing energy readings that made several people gasp. Zero-point energy extraction. The Council declared it theoretically impossible during our first scientific exchanges. They were wrong. We've been powering our classified facilities with unlimited energy for the past 12 years. The room erupted in excited conversation as the implications sank in. Unlimited energy meant unlimited possibilities. Manufacturing capacity that could build fleets in weeks instead of years. Weapons that could operate indefinitely without fuel concerns. Defensive systems that could maintain planetary shields around entire star systems. But Admiral Chen raised her hand for silence. "The advantages we've developed won't matter if we don't use them correctly. According to the Luminari data, the Council will begin their reassessment in 6 months. If they detect any technological advancement beyond their projections, they will activate the containment fleet." General Wright studied the tactical displays showing Council ship positions. 3,000 warships positioned around our space, each one capable of planetary sterilization. Even with our hidden advantages, those are overwhelming odds. "Not if we strike first," said Commander Elena Rodriguez, head of Special Operations. Her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had spent her career planning impossible missions. "The Council believes we're technologically inferior and psychologically predictable. They're wrong on both counts, and that gives us opportunities they won't see coming." Director Vasquez activated a new display showing intelligence networks that spanned dozens of star systems. "Our operatives have identified critical vulnerabilities in Council infrastructure. They've grown complacent over the centuries, relying on technological superiority instead of tactical flexibility. Their command structure is highly centralized. Their communication networks have predictable patterns, and their leadership makes decisions based on statistical models that don't account for human unpredictability." Admiral Chen felt the atmosphere in the room shift as experienced military minds began to see possibilities instead of obstacles. The Luminari have offered to share their technological databases and provide strategic support, but they've made it clear that this must be a human-led operation. They won't fight our battles for us. Dr. Tanaka brought up a timeline that made everyone lean forward. "If we begin full production immediately, we can have a fleet of 500 advanced warships operational within 4 months. Each one will be equipped with technologies the Council has never encountered, powered by energy sources they believe impossible, and crewed by humans who have spent their entire lives being told what they can't do." "What about civilian populations?" asked General Harrison. "If we start this war, the Council will target Earth and the colonies." Commander Rodriguez's expression was grim but determined. Project Sanctuary has been preparing for that possibility for 15 years. Every human civilian population center has hidden defensive systems and emergency evacuation protocols. The Council thinks they know where we live and how we're organized. They're in for some very unpleasant surprises. Admiral Chen activated a final display that showed the true scope of human preparation. Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, camouflaged research stations in the void between stars, defensive platforms disguised as space debris. Humanity hadn't just been contained. They had used that containment to prepare for the day they would break free. "The question before us," Chen said, looking around the table at the most powerful humans in the galaxy, "is whether we wait for the Council to discover our capabilities and strike first, or whether we take the initiative and fight for our freedom on our own terms. General Wright was the first to speak. My entire career has been built on the assumption that we were junior partners in a galactic community. Learning that we've actually been prisoners scheduled for extermination changes everything. I vote for immediate action. One by one, the others voiced their agreement. Director Vasquez committed her entire intelligence network. Dr. Tanaka promised to accelerate weapons development. Commander Rodriguez began outlining strike scenarios that would have been impossible with conventional technology. As the session ended and the participants began returning to their official duties, Admiral Chen remained in the secure facility, studying star charts that showed human space in its true context. Not the generous territory of a welcomed member species, but the carefully designed cage of a civilization marked for destruction. But cages only worked if the prisoner didn't have the keys. And humanity, she realized with growing excitement, had been forging those keys in secret for decades. The Council was about to learn the most important lesson in human history. Telling humans something was impossible was the fastest way to make them prove you wrong. Outside, the stars shone with the same light they always had. But for the first time in 47 years, they represented possibility instead of limitation. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and opportunities that had been denied to humanity for nearly half a century. The time had come to take them back. Captain Liu Wei felt the familiar hum of the USS Prometheus beneath his feet as the ship's revolutionary drive systems brought them out of dimensional fold space. Around him, the bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, monitoring displays that showed sensor readings the Galactic Council couldn't even detect. After 30 years of hiding humanity's true capabilities, today they would finally reveal what Earth's children had accomplished in secret. The Prometheus represented everything the Council believed impossible. Her hull was constructed from matter compressed at the quantum level, making her nearly indestructible while maintaining the agility of a fighter craft. Her weapons could fire coherent energy beams through dimensional rifts, striking targets light years away with pinpoint accuracy. Her defensive systems created localized gravity wells that could deflect incoming fire, or, at full power, tear attacking ships apart with gravitational shear. Most importantly, she was completely invisible to Council sensors. The ship existed partially outside normal spacetime, observable only when her crew chose to reveal her presence. It was technology that Council scientists had declared theoretically impossible during humanity's first scientific exchanges. They had been catastrophically wrong. "Sensor sweep complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the tactical station. "We have positive identification on all targets. The containment fleet is positioned exactly where the Luminary intelligence indicated." Captain Liu studied the holographic display that materialized above the command center. 3,000 Council warships arranged in a perfect sphere around human space, each one capable of reducing a planet to radioactive debris within hours. For 47 years, this fleet had remained hidden, waiting for the order to begin humanity's extermination. "Analysis, Commander Chen?" Liu asked his science officer, who happened to be Admiral Chen's daughter and one of the most brilliant tactical minds in the Solar Defense Force. Commander Anna Chen manipulated the display, highlighting patterns that revealed the Council's strategic thinking. "Their formation assumes we'll attempt to break out using conventional FTL drives, which would force us through specific choke points where they can concentrate their firepower. They have overlapping sensor grids covering every possible escape route, and their command ships are positioned to coordinate planetary bombardment of our colonies within minutes of detecting any aggressive action." "Classic containment doctrine," noted the ship's tactical AI, its voice carrying subtle notes of disdain that reflected the personality quirks its human programmers had given it. "Effective against conventional forces, but these Council strategists have never faced an opponent capable of dimensional manipulation." Captain Liu smiled grimly. The Council believed humanity was contained within 17 star systems, limited to technologies they had carefully rationed out over the decades. They had no idea that human research stations operated in hidden dimensions, that human ships could travel through spaces that didn't technically exist, or that human weapons could strike from angles that defied three-dimensional geometry. "Communications, open the secure channel to all fleet elements." "Channel open, Captain. All ships report ready." Liu looked around his bridge at the faces of men and women who had trained their entire careers for this moment. Every one of them had volunteered for a mission that would either free humanity or die in the attempt. More importantly, every one of them represented the human spirit that the Council had tried so hard to contain and control. This is Captain Liu to all vessels. Today we end 47 years of deception. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you try to cage the human spirit. All ships implement breakthrough protocol. The response was immediate and devastating. 500 human warships materialized out of dimensional fold space simultaneously, their sudden appearance causing chaos throughout the Council fleet. Alarms began screaming aboard 3,000 alien vessels as sensor operators reported the impossible. Humans had just appeared inside their containment sphere using technology that shouldn't exist. The first salvo from the human fleet defied everything the Council thought they knew about weapons technology. Energy beams struck through dimensional rifts, hitting Council ships from directions that couldn't be defended against. Gravitational weapons created localized black holes that consumed entire squadrons. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields as if they didn't exist, detonating inside enemy hulls with devastating effect. Council fleet attempting to reorganize, reported Lieutenant Kim. They're falling back to defensive formation Alpha 7. Commander Chen analyzed the enemy response with professional detachment. They're still thinking in conventional tactical terms. Admiral Zethkal is trying to create overlapping shield networks to buy time for their heavy artillery platforms to target us. Show them why that won't work, Captain Liu ordered. The USS Prometheus and her sister ships demonstrated capabilities that made the Council's most advanced warships look like primitive chemical rockets. They phased in and out of normal spacetime, striking from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their weapons fired coherent energy that existed in states of matter the Council had never encountered. Their defensive systems manipulated the fundamental forces of physics in ways that turned incoming fire into harmless light. But the true shock came when the Council fleet tried to retreat. Every escape route they attempted led them into carefully prepared ambushes. Human ships emerged from dimensional spaces the Council didn't know existed, cutting off retreat paths and herding the alien fleet into increasingly desperate positions. How are they anticipating our maneuvers? Came the frantic transmission from Council Admiral Zethkal to his command staff, unaware that human quantum computers were analyzing his tactical patterns faster than his own mind could formulate them. Captain Liu felt no satisfaction in the slaughter that followed. These Council ships were crewed by beings who believed they were protecting galactic peace from a dangerous species. They had no idea their own government had lied to them about humanity's true nature, just as they had lied to humanity for nearly 5 decades. Captain, came an urgent transmission from the fleet's intelligence ship. We're detecting incoming hyperspace signatures. Multiple Council reinforcement fleets moving to assist. Liu had expected this. The Council would never allow their containment fleet to be destroyed without response. But they were about to learn that humanity's preparations went far beyond a single fleet engagement. All ships execute Phase 2. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy changed forever. Human ships didn't just destroy the reinforcing Council fleets. They began systematically targeting the infrastructure that maintained the Council's control over dozens of star systems. Communication relays that had coordinated Council activities for centuries vanished in bursts of quantum fire. Administrative stations that governed tributary species found themselves facing human boarding parties equipped with weapons that could cut through any known defense. Most shocking of all, the massive Council citadel that served as the seat of galactic government found itself surrounded by human warships that had somehow traveled across the galaxy in a matter of hours. Impossible, whispered Council Prime Minister Velter as he stared at tactical displays showing human ships appearing throughout Council space. They were contained. Our models predicted their technological development for the next 2 centuries. This level of advancement should be impossible. His chief scientific advisor, a crystalline being whose species had served the Council for over a millennium, could only shake in terror as the data streams showed technology that violated every principle they thought they understood. Prime Minister, these humans have somehow developed parallel technological advancement paths. Nothing they're using appears in our databases. It's as if they've been preparing for this war since first contact. That assessment was more accurate than either being realized. Humanity had indeed been preparing, but not because they suspected the truth. They had prepared because challenging the impossible was what humans did. When told their fusion reactors were adequate for their current needs, human engineers had secretly developed zero-point energy extraction. When informed that faster-than-light travel was limited by quantum mechanics, human physicists had found ways to step outside those limitations entirely. When assured that artificial intelligence beyond certain parameters was culturally inappropriate, human programmers had created digital minds that could think faster and more creatively than any biological intelligence. Every limitation the Council had imposed had become a challenge for human ingenuity to overcome. Every impossible technology had become a secret research project. Every restriction had become motivation to prove that humans wouldn't be contained by anyone's definition of what they could accomplish. Council Fleet Command to all stations, came the desperate transmission across Council networks. Humanity has revealed advanced capabilities far beyond our assessments. Request immediate implementation of planetary bombardment protocols for all human worlds. The response came not from Council forces, but from Admiral Chen aboard the command ship USS Defiance, her voice broadcast across every communication frequency in the galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Solar Defense Force. For 47 years, the Galactic Council has deceived our species about our place in the galaxy. We were never members of your community. We were prisoners scheduled for extermination when you deemed us too dangerous to exist. Today, that deception ends. Today, humanity takes its rightful place among the stars, and any species that threatens our worlds or our people will face the full consequences of underestimating human resolve. The transmission ended, but its impact rippled across the galaxy like a shock wave. Species that had served the Council for centuries suddenly began asking questions about their own status. Tributary civilizations that had accepted Council authority as natural law began wondering if they too had been deceived. Most importantly, every species in the galaxy now knew that the Council could be defeated. The beings who had presented themselves as the ultimate authority in galactic affairs had been outfought, outmaneuvered, and completely outclassed by a species they had dismissed as technologically primitive. The old order was ending. The age of human expansion was about to begin. The Council's most secure facility lay buried in the heart of a neutron star, protected by gravitational fields that could crush ordinary matter into subatomic particles. For over 3,000 years, it had served as the ultimate retreat for Council leadership, a place where the galaxy's most sensitive decisions were made in complete isolation from outside interference. The facility was considered absolutely impregnable, accessible only through dimensional gates that required 3 different Council species working in concert to open. Council Prime Minister Velter materialized in the facility's emergency chamber, his crystalline form crackling with stress fractures that indicated extreme agitation. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in holographic projection, their forms flickering as quantum encryption protocols struggled to maintain secure communication across star systems now under human attack. "Report," Velter commanded, his harmonic voice carrying undertones of barely controlled panic. Defense Minister Cawthron, whose species had conquered 17 civilizations before joining the Council, displayed tactical summaries that defied belief. The human assault continues across 43 star systems simultaneously. They appear to possess faster-than-light travel capabilities that exceed our fastest vessels by orders of magnitude. More critically, their weapons technology operates on principles our scientists cannot identify. Science Council head Nexui brought up energy readings that made several Council members recoil in shock. "Prime Minister, these humans have somehow achieved zero-point energy extraction on an industrial scale. The power output from their weapons platforms exceeds the combined energy production of most Council member worlds." "That's impossible," declared High Admiral Zethkal from his flagship, which was currently hiding in the shadow of a gas giant, while human ships systematically dismantled the Council's Third Fleet. "Our xenobiological assessments indicated humanity was at least 2 centuries away from that level of technological development." Velter's form shifted to deep crimson, indicating the crystalline equivalent of rage. "Our assessments were wrong. The question now is how catastrophically wrong and what we do about it." Trade Minister Yulvek's activated displays showing economic data that painted an even more disturbing picture. The humans aren't just attacking military targets. They're systematically targeting our economic infrastructure. Mining operations, manufacturing centers, trade route coordination stations. They appear to understand our industrial networks better than we do ourselves. That observation was more accurate than any council member realized. Human intelligence operations had been mapping council economic and military infrastructure for decades, using deep cover operatives, sophisticated surveillance technologies, and most importantly, the same analytical capabilities that had allowed them to develop parallel technological paths. Where council thinking was hierarchical and predictable, human analysis was adaptive and creative. "They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before," reported Internal Security Director Mactor. "Traditional galactic warfare involves direct fleet engagements with clearly defined objectives. These humans are conducting simultaneous operations across multiple dimensions of conflict. Military, economic, psychological, technological. It's as if they're fighting an entirely different kind of war." Council military strategist Quindle brought up historical databases that showed the tactical patterns of every species the Council had conquered or destroyed over the millennia. "I've analyzed their attack vectors against our complete military archives. There are no precedents for their approach. They appear to be operating under strategic doctrines that assume conventional tactical thinking is insufficient." Prime Minister Velter studied the data streams showing human forces continuing their systematic dismantling of Council authority. In just 6 hours, humanity had accomplished what should have been impossible. They had demonstrated that the Council's military supremacy was an illusion. "What are their demands?" Velter asked. "Surely they must want to negotiate some form of settlement." Communications Director Fenwar activated a recording that made the entire assembly fall silent. Admiral Chen's voice filled the chamber with words that carried implications none of them wanted to acknowledge. "We are not interested in negotiations with a government that classified our entire species for extermination. We are not interested in treaties with beings who spent 47 years lying to us about our place in the galaxy. We are interested in one thing only: ensuring that no species in this galaxy ever again faces the threat of being caged, controlled, or destroyed by those who believe themselves superior." The recording continued with specific demands that made several council members' forms flicker with shock. Complete dissolution of the containment fleet doctrine. Public revelation of the Council's classification system for encountered species. Immediate independence for all tributary civilizations. Open access to all technological databases. And most shockingly, the establishment of a new galactic government based on voluntary cooperation rather than imposed hierarchy. "They want us to destroy everything we've built over 3 millennia, whispered Security Minister Halnex. "They're demanding the end of Council authority throughout the galaxy." Science Council head Nexui brought up xenopsychological profiles that suddenly made perfect sense in hindsight. "Our initial assessments of human psychology focused on their aggression and territorial behavior. We failed to understand that these traits are paired with an absolute rejection of imposed limitations. They don't just fight against direct threats, they fight against the concept of accepting restrictions others try to place on them." "Then we have to destroy them completely," declared High Admiral Zethkal. "If negotiation is impossible, we implement the final protocols. Every human world, every human ship, every human installation, complete extermination." Prime Minister Velter hesitated before responding. The final protocols had only been used twice in Council history, against species that posed existential threats to galactic order. But those species had been technologically inferior, lacking the ability to project power beyond their home systems. "Admiral, current tactical assessments indicate our forces are insufficient for final protocol implementation. Human defensive capabilities appear to exceed our offensive capacity." The admission hung in the chamber like a death sentence. For 3,000 years, Council military supremacy had been unquestionable. The idea that any single species could match their combined fleets was theoretically impossible. Defense Minister Cawthron activated new tactical displays that showed human fleet movements across the galaxy. "Prime Minister, we need to consider another possibility. Our intelligence networks are reporting unusual activity among tribute species. The humans appear to be making contact with civilizations we've controlled for centuries." The implications hit the assembled council leadership like a physical blow. If humanity began offering advanced technology and military support to tributary species, the careful balance of power that maintained council authority would collapse completely. "Show me," Velter commanded. The displays revealed a nightmare scenario unfolding across dozens of star systems. Human ships were making contact with species that had served the Council for generations, offering them the same choice humanity had been denied: freedom to develop their own technological capabilities and determine their own destinies. More critically, humanity was revealing the classification system the Council had used to determine which species lived, which served, and which died. Every tributary civilization was learning that they had been evaluated not for their worthiness as galactic citizens, but for their usefulness as controlled resources. "The Velkari Collective has declared independence from Council authority," reported Communications Director Fenwar, his form flickering with distress. "They're requesting human military assistance to defend against Council reprisal forces. The Nextal Republic is demanding access to the technological databases we've withheld from them for 800 years, added Trade Minister Yulvex. "They're threatening to halt all resource shipments to Council worlds. 17 tributary species have formed a defensive alliance," Security Minister Halnex announced, his voice carrying notes of disbelief. "They're calling themselves the Free Worlds Coalition." Prime Minister Velter watched his empire crumbling in real time. The humans hadn't just attacked Council military forces, they had attacked the foundational lie that kept Council civilization functioning: the belief that Council authority was natural, inevitable, and beneficial to the galaxy. "Prime Minister," came an urgent communication from the Council's deepest intelligence assets, "we're detecting massive energy buildups in human space. They appear to be constructing something that our sensors cannot properly analyze." The display showed readings that made even the most experienced Council scientists stare in confusion. Whatever humanity was building required power levels that shouldn't be possible with any known technology. The energy signatures suggested matter manipulation at the quantum level, space-time distortion on a stellar scale, and most disturbing of all, what appeared to be preparation for dimensional engineering projects. Science Council head Nexui ran the data through every analytical framework in the Council's databases. "Prime Minister, if these readings are accurate, the humans are preparing to implement technology that could fundamentally alter the structure of local spacetime. The implications are beyond our current understanding." High Admiral Zethkal's voice carried desperation as he made his final report. "Sir, human forces have achieved complete tactical superiority in all engagement zones. Our remaining fleets are requesting permission to withdraw to core systems for defensive operations." Velter looked around the chamber at the most powerful beings in the galaxy, all of them reduced to desperate strategizing in a hidden bunker, while their empire collapsed around them. The species they had dismissed as primitive prisoners had not only escaped their cage, but had begun dismantling the entire structure of galactic civilization. "All remaining Council forces," Velter announced, his crystalline form now pulsing with the pale light of defeat, "withdraw to minimum defensive perimeters. All tributary obligations are hereby suspended. All containment operations are terminated." The words felt like poison in his consciousness, but the alternative was complete annihilation. Humanity had demonstrated they could fight the entire Council to a standstill. More importantly, they had proven that the Council's greatest weapon, the acceptance of their authority, was nothing more than an elaborate illusion. The age of Council dominance was ending. The age of human expansion had begun. 6 months after the first human ship had materialized inside the Council's containment fleet, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra Station, watching the most ambitious engineering project in galactic history take shape before her eyes. The massive structure stretched across 3 light towers of space, its crystalline spires and quantum foundries representing technologies that made Council achievements look like primitive cave paintings. Terra Station wasn't just humanity's new capital. It was a declaration to the galaxy that the age of imposed limitations had ended forever. Built using zero-point energy and dimensional engineering, the station existed partially outside normal space-time, making it simultaneously accessible to all galactic civilizations and completely secure from any possible attack. Final construction phase complete, Admiral, reported Chief Engineer Martinez, her voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who had just helped build something unprecedented. All primary systems are operational, and the dimensional stabilizers are holding at optimal parameters. Through the massive transparent aluminum windows, Chen could see the fruits of humanity's newfound freedom spread across local space like a garden of technological wonders. Manufacturing platforms that could construct entire fleets in days rather than months. Research stations that pushed the boundaries of physics beyond anything previously imagined. And most importantly, defensive installations that made any future attempt at containment an exercise in futility. But the real revolution wasn't visible in the gleaming structures surrounding Terra Station. It was happening across the galaxy, as species after species discovered that the limitations they had accepted for centuries were nothing more than artificial restrictions imposed by their supposed benefactors. "Admiral," came the communication from the diplomatic section, "the Free Worlds Coalition is requesting another meeting. They want to discuss the next phase of technological sharing agreements." Chen smiled as she thought about the changes sweeping through galactic civilization. The Velkari Collective had used human-provided manufacturing techniques to increase their industrial output by 3,000% in just 4 months. The Nextal Republic had combined their natural biotechnology with human quantum physics to develop medical advances that were already saving millions of lives. Most remarkably, the Quindar species had used human dimensional engineering to begin construction of their first interstellar colonies, breaking free from the single star system, where the Council had contained them for over a millennium. Every success story represented a civilization that had been deliberately held back, kept within artificial boundaries that served Council interests rather than galactic prosperity. The humans hadn't just defeated the Council militarily. They had revealed the economic and technological potential that had been suppressed throughout the galaxy for thousands of years. "What's the status on the Council's response to our latest diplomatic initiatives?" Chen asked. Communications Director Park brought up displays showing the increasingly desperate attempts by Council loyalists to maintain some vestige of their former authority. "Prime Minister Velter has agreed to most of our core demands. The containment fleet doctrine has been officially disbanded. The classification system for newly discovered species has been abolished, and they've begun releasing technological databases to tributary species." "Most of our demands?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "They're still refusing to accept the new galactic charter we've proposed. They claim that voluntary cooperation between species is structurally unstable and will lead to chaos." Chen looked out at the dozens of species represented in the ship's docking with Terra Station. Velkari biotechnology specialists working alongside human quantum engineers. Nextal philosophers debating ethics with artificial intelligences that thought faster than biological minds. Quindar artists creating dimensional sculptures that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. If this was chaos, it was the most productive and innovative chaos in galactic history. "Admiral," came another communication, this one from the Deep Space Exploration Division. "The Luminari Collective is requesting permission to dock. Ambassador Zethai wishes to discuss the next phase of galactic reorganization." "Grant permission immediately," Chen replied. The Luminari had made humanity's revolution possible by revealing the truth about Council deception. Their support had been crucial during the military phase of the conflict, and their knowledge would be invaluable in building whatever came next. As she made her way to the diplomatic docking bay, Chen reflected on how completely the galaxy had changed. The Council still existed, but their authority was now limited to the few core worlds that chose to maintain the old hierarchical system. Most of their former territory had either declared independence or joined the rapidly expanding Free Worlds Coalition. More importantly, the fundamental assumptions that had governed galactic civilization for millennia had been permanently altered. The idea that some species were naturally superior to others had been revealed as self-serving propaganda. The belief that technological development required careful control and limitation had been proven catastrophically wrong. Most significantly, the assumption that galactic peace required imposed order had been replaced by something far more powerful: voluntary cooperation based on mutual benefit and shared knowledge. Ambassador Zethai materialized in the docking bay, its crystalline form shifting through patterns of light that indicated deep satisfaction. Admiral Chen, I bring greetings from the Luminary High Council and congratulations on humanity's remarkable achievements. Ambassador, without your people's intervention, we never would have learned the truth about our situation in time to act. The galaxy owes the Luminary a debt that can never be fully repaid. Zethai's form shifted to warm golden tones. Admiral, observing your species break free from Council control has been payment enough, but I come with news that will interest you greatly. The Council's retreat from galactic governance has had consequences they never anticipated. The ambassador activated a holographic display that showed star charts covering regions of the galaxy humanity had never seen. Beyond Council space, there exist hundreds of species that developed independently, never knowing about the Council's existence. They have been watching the recent conflicts with great interest. Chen studied the data with growing excitement. Entire civilizations that had developed without artificial limitations, species that had achieved technological advances along paths no Council member had ever imagined. The galaxy was far larger and more diverse than anyone had realized. Some of these civilizations possess capabilities that exceed even human achievements, Zethai continued. The Chordal Union has mastered time manipulation on a galactic scale. The Infinite Collective has learned to transfer consciousness between dimensions. The Star Builders construct artificial solar systems to power their civilization. And they want to make contact. They want to join the Free World's coalition. Your species has demonstrated that galactic civilization need not be based on dominance and control. They see opportunity for genuine cooperation between truly equal partners. Chen felt a familiar sensation, the same excitement she had experienced as a young officer watching humanity's first steps among the stars. But this time, instead of being granted limited membership in someone else's galaxy, humanity was helping to build something entirely new. Admiral, came another communication from the station's central command. We're receiving official diplomatic requests from 47 independent civilizations requesting coalition membership. The Free World's charter has been ratified by over 200 species. The numbers were staggering. In 6 months, humanity had gone from being contained within 17 star systems to helping coordinate cooperation between hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. The coalition wasn't just larger than the old council. It was fundamentally different, based on shared knowledge and mutual benefit rather than imposed hierarchy. There's something else, Admiral, Zethai said, its form shifting to patterns that indicated importance. Our deep space monitoring systems have detected signals from beyond this galaxy. It appears that other galaxies have been watching the changes here with great interest. Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about the implications. If other galaxies contain civilizations similar to the Council, they would be watching humanity's success with considerable concern. If they contain civilizations that valued freedom and cooperation, they might see the Free World's coalition as potential allies. Either way, humanity's future had suddenly become far more interesting. Ambassador, I believe it's time to expand our definition of local space. If there are civilizations in other galaxies, they deserve the same choice we've offered species here. Freedom to develop their own capabilities, or freedom to cooperate with others who share their values. Zethai's form blazed with brilliant white light, the luminary equivalent of delighted laughter. Admiral, that statement perfectly captures why my people chose to ally with humanity. Most species, once they achieve galactic influence, become protective of their territory and suspicious of outside contact. Humans achieve galactic influence and immediately start planning to share it with anyone interested in cooperation. Chen thought about the long journey from that moment in her office when she first learned the truth about Council deception. Humanity had been classified as a threat because they refused to accept limitations others tried to impose. The Council had been right about that assessment, but they had completely misunderstood its implications. Humans didn't just reject limitations on themselves. They rejected the idea that anyone should be limited by artificial boundaries. They didn't just fight for their own freedom. They fought for the principle that freedom should be available to all beings capable of understanding its value. Communications, open a channel to all Free World's coalition members, Chen commanded. It's time to discuss our next project. As species from across the galaxy listened, Admiral Sarah Chen outlined humanity's next ambition, extending the principles of the Free World's coalition beyond their own galaxy, offering every civilization in the universe the same choice between imposed limitations and unlimited cooperation. The Council had been right about one thing. Humanity was a threat to galactic stability. They were a threat to any system based on dominance, control, and artificial scarcity. They were also the greatest hope for any civilization that believed in the possibility of something better. The stars belonged to those brave enough to claim them, and humanity had just decided to claim all of them.